You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again. Today, we have another show lineup for y'all today. We're going to talk to the CEO of LevelingUp by Choice LLC, Tiffani Davis. And she also is a book author. We're going to talk about her book, Change is Coming, Faith to Face the Inevitable. So first and foremost, we're going to learn about Tiffani, what she does, and her backstory. So first and foremost, I want to welcome you to the show today and say how you doing.
Well, thank you very much. I'm doing great. It's an honor to be here. So I really am grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for taking time out of your schedule talking to us today. So before we talk about your book, kind of give the audience a little backstory, a little bit about your business as well, Leveling Up by Choice LLC.
Right. Leveling Up by Choice is a life coaching business in which I help people just to kind of move forward past the points of their pain, particularly when it comes to relationships. Relationships are really fundamental. They're very important in every aspect of our lives. And in spite of its importance, I don't think in our society, at least, we don't do a lot to help people to have healthy relationships, even though we're constantly relating to people, whether it's on the job or personally. And that's why we end up having a lot of hurt people hurting other people because we find it difficult to relate to one another. And as a life coach, a relationship coach, I end up having people that have been hurt by other people, and I'm helping them through those things. And the way that I kind of got into this, it was just a perfect mixture of the things that I started even immediately after college, working in social services, becoming a licensed minister in my early 20s. And everything just kind of got me to this point where, I'm helping people through this business. I was a counselor at one time, but the difference between life coaching and counseling, the people often come to me, they're ready to move forward, but they just don't know how. And that's why I really love it, because there are people, again, that they're ready to do something, but they just don't quite know what it is that they need to do. And so as the life coach, that's what I'm doing. Then also as an author, I think that's a great way to get a message to people, from all over the world through the gift of writing. So I love to encourage people through the art of writing.
And you released your first book, Driven, and that's also available for people to get on Amazon. It's Driven to Find Peace, Purpose, and Empower, 21-day devotional. So with that book, kind of share the audience some of the key points that you put inside that book for the readers.
Okay. Well, both books are Christian books. They're biblically based, and the main thing is just to help people to build their faith. A lot of people go to church all the time. We hear wonderful sermons, we're inspired, but then we go back home and things are like they were when we left church, and so those things become distractions. They kind of drain the message that we were, so inspired by that we hear. So the purpose of the book, Driven, is to help people, to understand their identity in Christ, to understand the God that they're serving, and to understand the power that they have, that they don't just have to let life happen to them, that they can be instrumental in shaping their lives.
And when you are helping people basically transition to be the better selves, be their better self, what's some of the similar patterns that you discover with working with people as far as like the process and them just staying consistent and not giving up?
Well, one thing that I take people through is a kind of a system in which they're able to understand, recognize the patterns of thoughts that they have. We all have a narrative that plays in our head, and we might not realize that. And whatever that narrative is going to influence our behavior. So if we are thinking thoughts that are fearful thoughts, then That narrative is constantly playing in our head, and we might not go out and do things and because we fear, either failing at something. We fear what might be what we think might happen. So I tried to get them to see that thought process, because we can limit ourselves with what we believe about ourselves. So if we don't believe in ourselves, if we don't believe that we are able to, then we're not going to do. And so again, what one of the things that I help with that's familiar with everybody is just to recognize that thought process, because we have to at times learn to be our own cheerleader. Some of us may not have ever had anybody, even from childhood, to tell us that we could do something, to tell us that we were born with greatness inside of us. And if we don't understand that, then we are going to continue to live below the standard of living that we can live. We're not ever going to enjoy the abundant life that we can actually have.
We're talking to Tiffani Davis. She is the CEO of Leveling Up by Choice, LLC. You can go to her website, levelingupbychoice.com. Check out her services. And also a little bit later, we're going to talk about her book, her recent book that came out, Journey Forth, Change is Coming, Faith to Face the Inevitable. So, Tiffani, when you are putting plans in place for people to follow with your services, someone who's new to this and they can do the homework and find out they are a good fit with you, what do you recommend for our listeners when they prep to work with someone like yourself?
I recommend that they let go of any preconceived notions, of what they think a session might be like, what they think might happen. And I try to build trust with them, because that's hard for a lot of people, especially when people are coming to me when trust has been broken, with those that they should have been able to trust, that should have been loving them, should have been protecting them. And with that, and trying to build trust, that helps them to be open and honest, because unless they're open, honest, and transparent, we really can't get to the heart of the matter. So transparency, openness, and honesty are key components to having a successful life coaching session.
And when people are, starting a new year, like new year, new me, we all see that fade pretty fast. So for those who are serious about taking the next step and bettering themselves, bettering their life, and changing old habits, what are some of the key things that keep people from being committed to the process based on your experience?
That's good. Like you said, everybody kind of starts out the new year expecting this new you to show up, but the new you is not going to show up with the same old mindset. And that has to change. The mindset has to change, because before anything can happen, you have to actually see yourself. You actually have to know that, we talk a good game. A lot of people have dreams, and those dreams are great table talk, but we don't put any true effort behind it. And so people, one, have to have the mindset that, okay, this time it's going to be for real. Well, what's going to make it for real this time? I'm going to stay committed this time. Why are you going to stay committed? I have an actual plan. I have an actual workable plan. I have an accountability partner. I have a life coach even, that I'm going to speak to. I'm going to make sure that it gets done, because unfortunately, again, it's easy to have a dream and talk about it, but then to actually pursue it. And some people are scared because our success is contingent upon us. We can see other people and say, oh, they had this leg up, these things happen for them, and some people do, have opportunities that we might not have had, but that does not mean that we still can't be successful. That just means that our success might come working a little bit harder, going a different route, but we are responsible for our own success. And we have to have the mindset that this time it's going to be for real. This time I'm going to actually do it. So if we're still showing up with those same patterns of thinking, if we are still limiting ourselves, or if we are still fearing failure, then we're never going to achieve the things that we desire to achieve.
And with that said, people, they they can be in their own way. I have a lot of people on the show who will say, yeah, like people just really get in their own way. They say they're gonna do something, and then the old habits will come, and then boom, there they are again. But I also heard people say, being realistic, that yeah, you might take 3 steps forward, but you also will probably take 2 steps back. So is it also like understanding the reality of situation, that it's a long-term process, that you're not just gonna take 10,000 steps forward without any setbacks?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. One thing that I always share with people is that, the small steps matter. And so to continue taking those small steps that will eventually snowball, and so we can't expect this to be, a sprint. It is a marathon. So having realistic expectations along the way so that we're not disappointing ourselves. So setting those goals, those short-term goals that will eventually meet those long-term goals.
Once again, talking to Tiffani Davis here on Refocus Radio. We go to her website, levelingupbychoice.com. And with that, let's jump into your book that you recently dropped in January 4th. Change is coming. Can you give the audience a little foundation of the core of this book and what it's all about?
Sure. The core of this book is to help people not to get sidetracked by all the things that, end up happening to us. Life just kind of happens. We cannot stop things from changing. Life is going to happen. There's going to be things that come our way that were unexpected, but we can't always be so moved by it that now all of a sudden, we don't, we're in a panic. And I think one of the great examples right now is what happened during the pandemic. And I think that showed the difference between people and the mindsets that people have, because the pandemic happened to everybody. People didn't expect the lockdowns. People didn't expect to lose their job. People didn't expect to lose loved ones. Stuff happened, to everybody during that time. But everybody didn't react the same to it. Some people, became depressed. Some people, their marriages just fell apart because they couldn't handle all the time together, or whatever. But then some people rose to the occasion. Some people saw a problem, and instead of focusing on the problem, they found an answer to that problem. Yeah, they might have lost their job, but now they started a business. So we can't stop change from happening, but we can be in control of how we respond to it, and that's what the book is about, essentially.
And with faith is part of your life. How has that helped you structure how you go after life and just have clarity?
Faith most definitely is an important part of my life. I've been in church all my life, grew up as a devout Catholic, and then as an adult, joined the non-denominational church. But what happened in writing this book actually came about when I was preparing a sermon to preach at a church, and it began to minister to me um, because of what I was going through. And what I went through took all the knowledge that I had about faith, took all the knowledge that I had about the Word of God, and tested me to actually put it into action. It had me not just to preach about faith, but it had me to apply the faith that I preached about in my life, um, to help me through the things that I was going through at that time.
And someone listening right now, we always hear on shows, what they can start doing today, right, to take action. But I'm going to switch it up. If you can generally speak, what's something that a person should stop doing starting today if they want to start the process to really get back on the road as far as going to the next level with their life?
What they should stop doing is thinking that they can't. What they should stop doing is thinking that it's impossible. What they should stop doing is focusing on all the reasons why they might not be able to move forward. What they should stop doing is just nursing all of those beliefs that limit them in who they are and the way that they see themselves.
Man, that's good. Yeah, because that makes me think about fear. Fear can paralyze people from making a decision. And indecision, I've heard someone say, is still a decision. You're just choosing not to move. And that can paralyze a person from being able to move forward and to accomplish things. When you look at your business and how far it's gone, we all know that businesses are not easy to run, because if it was, everyone would have one. What are some of the things you've been able to do to keep yourself from getting to the point where you want to stop running your business and quit? What do you do to keep yourself focused on the bigger picture, so that way you can continuously just flow into what is meant for you?
Mm. It's interesting that you asked that question, because I know so many times this week I have just been emotionally, physically, spiritually tired, you know. Um, but what I have reminded myself is that I really believe that God has given me a message for somebody. And so when I do get up, at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning to make sure I get everything done, even though I might be tired, I think, okay, someone needs to hear this message. Someone needs to be reminded that things don't have to stay like this, that the misery and the bitterness, the unforgiveness, the hopelessness, it doesn't have to be like this always. There's so much hurt that's going on in the world, so many people that are hurting. And there are a lot of people out there that have a message of encouragement, that have a message that can help people. And I believe that God has given me that same, message, a message for somebody. And I don't want them to miss it, because yeah, I get frustrated sometimes that I'm tired, that I don't always have the encouragement that I might think I should have from other people. Everybody might not see the vision that I have for this business. And so that is what helps to motivate me.
Listen on Refocus Radio, talking to Tiffani Davis. She is the CEO of Leveling Up by Choice, LLC. You can go to her website, levelingupbychoice.com. And when you have written these books, do you have more books coming in the near future that you're working on?
I do. There's one that I'm actually finishing up, and this particular book addresses the identity crisis that I see that believers have, and it's intended to help them understand who they are through the eyes of God. I'm also a sociology professor, so I know the role that society plays in shaping who we are. And as a minister, I know that there's an enemy that's trying to deceive people and make us think that we are less than who we are. So we have all these things competing against who God says we are. We're loved by him, but it's hard to feel love when those who should have loved us have actually rejected us. God says that we're victorious, but it's hard to feel like a victor when we're constantly being victimized. So the purpose of this book is to remind us and to solidify our belief in who we are in Christ. And there's also another one that I believe is on the horizon. A lot of people have asked me, as a result of changes coming, what was the outcome of my marriage? Because I mentioned my marriage in this book, because I was going through a separation at the time that I was writing this book, and that's why it began to minister to me. And so the book wasn't about my marriage. It really was about the changes that I was experiencing and that I was expecting, because I thought I was going to be getting a divorce. And so people have asked me about the outcome, and I believe that I'm going to end up writing a book that will be an encouragement and a help to married couples, because my husband and I, we had the divorce settlement agreement on the attorney's desk. He was just waiting for us to say send it to the judge, but we decided to withdraw that petition and to reconcile. And so I believe that that there's another book that I'm going to write with this regarding this story that will help other couples, and most of all, to give God the glory.
So on listeners right now, what will you say to people who have faith and they are pushing, but you know how it is. Life keeps coming at you. What do you say to people who need that encouragement to keep pushing forward no matter what?
I would tell them to continue to make that choice to believe what the word says, the word that is unchanging, the word that has always stood the test of time, the word that has always come to pass, that all these things are going to work out for our behalf, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything that is going to work out. We already mentioned how some things that we go through, it's not a race. It is a marathon. Our faith doesn't ignore the reality around us. We see the things that are going on with our finances and our relationship and our health. We see those things, but our faith gives us the power to change the things that are going on. And sometimes those changes that we are implementing, it may not be as fast as we want them to be, because even in those things that might be going on, we see the diagnosis, we see the status of the relationship, but there might be some things that God might be working out through those situations. There might be a learning process, a growth process, a maturing process. So I would encourage them to continue to stay steadfast in their faith, to continue to have hope in the Lord. If he did it for other people, there's no reason that he wouldn't do it for us. And I think that's a problem there too with that identity crisis, because we can have so much faith to believe for somebody else. We can pray heaven down for somebody else. But when it comes to ourselves, we often doubt. We often doubt in our prayer. We waver in our prayer. But it's not about who we are. It's about the God who we serve that is going to answer the prayer. And so that's where our focus has to be, on the God who is able and who is willing to answer our prayers, even for us, who sees the things that we are going through and who will answer our prayer according to our need, because he sits at a perspective that is so much higher than us. Because from where we see, we might think, okay, well, I just need a new job. But from where he sits, he's saying, no, I need you to see what I have put in you to start this business. I need you to hear the words that are being spoken for you to write this book. So he's telling you to write a book. He's telling you to start a business. And you say, no, I just need more money. No, I just need a new job. So our faith has to be in the God that we serve, knowing that he is going to answer us according to what we need from the perspective that he sits at.
You listen to Refocus Radio, talking to our guest today, Tiffani Davis, CEO of Leveling Up by Choice, LLC. You can visit her website, levelingupbychoice.com, and check out her services. And Tiffani, for those who listen right now, what's the best call to action that you like for our listeners to take?
Well, right now I would encourage those who are going through a situation in which they might feel that they have no control over what's going on. They might feel like they're waning in their faith. I would encourage them to go to Amazon and to order Changes Coming, Faith to Face the Inevitable, to help them through their circumstances, to help to build their faith and help to remind them that these things that they are going through right now, that it shall pass, that it will be part of their testimony in which they say, look what God has done for me.
I want to say thanks to Tiffani Davis, CEO of Leveling Up by Choice, LLC, for taking time in your schedule, talking to Refocus Radio today.
Thank you for having me.